Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Rocky Top Insider Diamond Pass podcast, coming at you here on a Monday evening after Tennessee baseball series win over then fourth-ranked Texas, the biggest series win of the season. A lot of positive things to break down. Hasn't always been the case for Tennessee baseball's 2026 season, but the Vols have claimed their fourth series win of the year, moved to 13-14 in SEC play, all but a tournament lock now. So we got some big picture things to talk about. And of course, recapping the Texas series. I'm your host, Jack Foster, joined alongside Ryan Chumpert as always. Ryan, it's been 2 weeks since we podcasted. Missed last week. You didn't watch much of the Kentucky series, and also there were some availability issues anyway. So it felt like a good week to take off, but we are back now. How are you doing?
Doing well. A little bit under the weather, but certainly a lot better baseball for Tennessee to talk about this week than there was last week. So I guess kind of fitting nature for this team, but excited to get on here and chop it up.
And the hair, my goodness, it is just tall and coiffed. It is doing a lot tonight for you, Ryan. I'm personally growing out my beard for the first time, actually trying to get the full beard going, not just the goatee. So this has been a little bit new for me, and just kind of said F it with the hair, but that is not the case for you this week.
Yeah, well, certainly no facial hair really a possibility for me, but a victim of the feeling under the weather. Got a little bit of a nap earlier this evening, and the hair's going crazy since, but looks okay from the straight ahead profile.
All right, Ryan. So I don't think we would have projected a Tennessee baseball series win. I don't believe you did. Texas has been wouldn't say juggernaut, but a very good team. Just win series. They don't sweep a bunch, but they just win series. And they had a lot of impressive series wins coming into this weekend in Knoxville. But we knew, obviously, the Vols had a certain amount of upside. They've shown it. Sweeping Mississippi State on the road, looking phenomenal in a doubleheader against Bama. They've shown glimpses of really high highs. But a week after the lowest of lows were possibly shown at Kentucky, it wasn't easy to predict or project or foresee what happened. Specifically Saturday, the onslaught Tennessee's offense had on Texas's pitching, but really the series win as a whole. Tegan Kuhn's player of the weekend, we'll get into that. Trent Grenlinger staying hot, but I guess, if you were to think about why Tennessee won this series and really what made it come to fruition for the Vols to get such a big series win, where would you point to?
Yeah, I think it's hard to say. I mean, very much 1A, 1B with Tegan Kuhn's outing. I mean, you get an outing like that, even on a Friday night in the SEC when you're facing really good pitching, which Tennessee was. That just gives you such a good chance to win if you're going to get 7 shutout innings from your starters. So I think that's a huge part of it, especially given, and we'll get into this more, what the rest of Tennessee's pitching staff looked like last weekend. But then, the 1B to that is just how solid the offense was. And, even in the Sunday game where they lost, and Texas really had most of their best bullpen arms still available since they were trailing basically all of game 1 and game 2, or at least once they got to the bullpen in game 1 and game 2. And Tennessee certainly wasn't able to keep up in what turned into a shootout, but they had good at-bats. The offense was solid in that game. And, if you just kind of look at it, like I wrote about it today, I feel like Tennessee's offense, even maybe not having watched much of the Kentucky series makes me feel this way even more. But to me, it feels like this offense has turned corner. Not that they're just amazing or they're like the 22 or 24 offenses or anything like that. But for a season where most of the year we've talked about that being a weakness of this team and one of their biggest issues, I don't feel that way anymore. I feel like this is a pretty solid offense that is going to be, again, maybe not great, but at least pretty good most weekends.
Completely agree. It is not this team's Achilles heel anymore. It is, I wouldn't say a strength. I think certain parts of it you could argue are a strength, but it is a group that when you go into a game, you can have some hope for, or even a considerable amount of hope for. Not a ton, but you can be like, okay, any given game, this offense can hit, can tally double-digit hits. We've seen it, and it can happen against really good pitchers too. Tennessee saw Volantis, who has been the best arm in the league, really well. 6 hits in the first 5 innings, I believe he pitched, 3 runs. And yeah, I just think, and it's coming from multiple different places too. It is not entirely reliant on Henry Ford. This weekend is the perfect example of that. Really productive weekend for the group as a whole. Henry Ford has 1 hit, hits 077 on the weekend. It is not reliant on power from, say, Blaine Brown or Blake Grimmer. No, it is a lot of situational hitting, the sacrifices situations Tennessee has executed, dare I say, perfectly. Like, as of
Yeah.
late, Grinlinger can do it all. Garrett Wright has been very, very consistent and a perfect leadoff hitter for this team. Reese Chapman, I mean, what it came in a loss, but what he did on senior day and just how sneakily important he's been for this team all year. That there's all these different places you can really go with this offense, and I think that's a good thing. It is not the box office falls of the past where you have the Fishers or the Gilberts or the Moores or anything like that to where you'd pay high dollar to see this one player. There's not that, and I think maybe people thought Ford could be, just don't really think it is. I don't even think he's hitting 300 on the year at this point. So, but the collective effort has been mostly pretty dang solid, and all but 4 games since game 1 in Starkville. First 2 games against Ole Miss, first 2 games against Kentucky. Every other game, Tennessee's offense, I would say, played well.
Yeah, no, I agree, and I'll start there. You go through Tennessee's first 4 SEC series. They scored 16 runs at Georgia, 15 runs against Missouri, scored 22 runs against Vanderbilt. That's a little misleading. Played 35 innings. Scored
Yeah,
15 in the game 3 loss.
yeah, and you got midweek dudes who had never even done it before from Vandy on Sunday. Yeah, like
Yeah, and look, you had 9 straight innings on Saturday. If Tennessee scores a run, they would have won the game. They weren't able
yeah,
to do it. Certainly without it. I don't think anyone, even with the big Sunday, felt like that was a good weekend for the offense.
nope.
15 runs against LSU. 30 innings that series because you had an extra innings game. So 16-15, Mickey Mouse 22-15. 5 series since 19, 18, 29, the downer 14, the worst of the year against Kentucky, and then 25 this weekend against Texas. Like it's been starting at Mississippi State. It's been markedly better. And to me, it doesn't feel coincidental that 2 of the last 3 weeks of the year, or 2 of the last 3 weeks have been, Tennessee's 2 best offensive series.
Yeah, I think it's just been what has caused this team to become better, more well-rounded. It's why it's going to make the postseason. And, I just think that, like I said, you can go into any game having some optimism, regardless of who's on the mound for the opposing team or what the situation is. Like, any given time, man, he could have a good game. Blaine could have 2 hits. It's not there. There's not really a black hole, I don't think either.
Yeah.
So,
And then
and
that's
look,
what,
yeah,
and
go
that was
ahead.
just something I was going to hit on too, because you touched on earlier. Like, yeah, there's not much star power, but just like 1 through 6, it's really solid.
Mhm.
5 different guys in SEC play have 7 homers, which is the team best mark. Trent Grinlinger you throw him in, he's not he doesn't have enough at bats to qualify for SEC awards essentially, but he's hitting 356 in SEC play with 9 extra base hits. That doesn't feel like a fluke at all. Like it feels
No.
he's done it long enough to be like, yeah, this is who he is. And that's what, Levi Clark hitting 294, 13 extra base hits in SEC play. I mean, it's unreal how bad he was in non-conference play because his season numbers are still very bad, and he's been really good in SEC. I was a huge Levi Clark guy before the season, and if you had told me these are his SEC stats for 9 series, I'd been like, yeah, that's I would sign up for that if I was Tennessee. So,
Yep.
not a ton of star power, but between Levi, you said Garrett Wright's just steady at the top, Chapman, Grimmer. Henry Ford's been a little more streaky than I'm expected and Tennessee would have liked, but it's just been a lot of solid contributions that have. That's probably why that it hasn't been a bunch of star power or just a ton of home runs. That it's kind of sneakily just become a strength of the team. I don't know if I would say it's the strength, but a strength.
Just more of a complete offense. Yeah. So
Yeah, 100%.
we'll get back into the specifics a bit here later on. We will start with the pitching, specifically the starting pitching when discussing this Texas series. And of course, we have to start with Tegan Kuntz, who struck out a whopping 15 batters, a career best, one of the best for Tennessee baseball in decades. did so in 7 innings, pitched, was completely shut down, dominant against Texas, only allowed 4 hits, 0 runs, 1 walk, only 1 extra base hit. It was a double. So, Ryan, I was asked this question on radio today. Is this, can you remember a more dominant outing from a Tennessee baseball starting pitcher since you've been covering the team? I go to Doyle's last year against A&M when he and Dylan Lloyd combined for that
Yeah.
no-hitter. Doyle was lethal through 6 innings, I believe. I know Dolander's had some gems. Lindsey had a couple of big-time games there in 23, but the 15 number is hard to get past.
Yeah.
15 strikeouts carries a lot of weight when discussing the magnitude of this outing, of course. So I'll ask you, who has, watched more Tennessee baseball going back into the late 20 teens and early parts of the Tony V era. Can you remember something like this, or do you have an outing that you can recall rivaling this one?
Yeah, I mean the two I always go back to are Garrett Stallings through complete games. I think one of them was a shutout and one he gave up 1 run against Georgia and Ole Miss. Georgia, who was like top 5 in the country back in 2019. So that's the one that I would, or two that I point to. You mentioned a Doyle one against A&M. I think the thing about this is it kind of checks all the boxes. Like, it was a long outing, 7 innings. It was incredibly dominant from a statistical standpoint. Only 5 base runners, I guess, 4 hits and a walk with the 15 strikeouts, which is just astronomical. It came against a really good opponent, and it was a game Tennessee really needed to win. It's not like Tennessee was sitting here with 17 SEC wins entering the season or entering the weekend, and they're battling between being the number 2 or number 3, 4 overall seed. Like, Tennessee needed out. Main NCAA tournament was no lock entering this weekend. So I think when you combine all those factors, it's probably the most complete, best performance I've seen. Some of the stuff Xander did on the stage, I think goes up there, but obviously none of those were as dominant or as long. Liam Doyle had some dominant outings, but the stakes weren't quite as high. And Garrett Stallings was never just overpowering opponents with his stuff back in 2019. So I think anything you could really nitpick about these other really, really good pitching performances I've seen or starts from Tennessee pitchers, like you just really can't. There's nothing to nitpick about Tegan Kuhn's outing.
What's crazy is that he walked the leadoff guy.
Yeah.
Like, his lone walk was the first batter of the game. And of his 4 hits, 2 come in 2 of his final 3 batters. And this is what you talk about, checking all the boxes, which I think is a good point. His last inning is what checked a huge box to me. So many times we've seen outings, and specifically from Kuhn's, honestly, where the train's rolling, the train's humming really, really good, and then it comes to a halt fairly quickly, and then that's it. I think Blanco has done a great job of overcoming mid-outing adversity, if I were to put it that way. Like, he's done it time and time again, especially in the last month and a half, and we'll get to a little bit of that. But Kuhn's striking out 2 guys, coming out on a high pitch count, 100 plus in the 7th, bang, bang, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 3 pitches each time, and then giving up 2 singles. It's like, okay, the train's kind of it looks like it's really slowed down. And if you can recall, his hat was coming off every single pitch. It hadn't had a problem with it all season. I've never seen that from Tegan. Certainly it's totally a Xander thing from back in the day, but Kuhn's, it wasn't happening for him. And then all of a sudden that starts happening. And then he throws 3 balls in those 2 at-bats where he gives up the singles. So he's not finding the zone as well. And it just feels like, okay, he's out of gas. 110 pitches, it's over. But then Casey Borba, who has a ton of power and is a very dangerous hitter with runners on, he gets him on that strikeout, which was just electric stuff. And, of course, shows the emotion going back to the dugout, loses his stuff. This is my bleeping house. You have seen the clip, surely, everybody. So to do that, to go out like that, I think is a massive box to check and makes this outing so much more memorable. Because if he just, say, walks the next guy to load the bases with 2 outs and gets pulled, yes, it is still a totally dominant outing. Say, the reliever gets out of the inning and Kuhn's is still 6 2/3 scoreless. Like, that's only 1 less out and 1 less strikeout. This outing still looks damn good. But to go out like that is what I will remember, and it seems to be like it will be his final batter faced in Lindsey Nelson Stadium, which makes it all the more cool and special and all those things.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit Doyle-esque in that, you know, in that way with the way he came back in out of the bullpen against Wake Forest on Monday night. Obviously, tournament game, so a little higher stakes. And yeah, I mean, on the Borba point, like second pitch hit out of bat. I mean, he turns on one,
Yes.
annihilates the baseball foul. Where it's
Yep.
like, oh gosh, like, you know, it puts you all the more on edge. And the fact that a home run there ties the game, I think that's the thing I would add too. Maybe like a fifth qualification. You know, Teagan was awesome 3 weekends ago against Alabama, complete game shutout in 8 innings. But Tennessee won that game 10-0 and had a comfortable lead basically the whole time. You know, Tennessee led they were 3-0 basically the whole game. So the game was never, you know, it was always in flux when he was in. So you throw that too. It was all very high stakes. It was never like, you know, that's what I would say. Again, it's an unfair knock, but, you know, a knock on a lot of Dolander's great outings in 22. It's like, well, he's playing with a 6-7 run lead. It's kind of easy as dramatic, but it's a lot easier to pitch when you're up there with a huge lead. This game was in doubt. You know, Tennessee finally got some insurance to bottom in the 7th inning after Teagan exited, but, you know, really until then, the game was very much in doubt. So just a dominant showing, and I'm sure we'll get to it a little bit more. Obviously, he was bad at Kentucky, but to be as good as he's been really for the most part the last 6-7 weeks, and I mean really dang good 2 of the last 3 times out, and you look at where Tennessee's pitching staff sits right now, like Tennessee's going to make a run in the tournament. They don't need 7 shutout, 15 strikeouts from Teagan Coons, but they need Teagan Coons with his, you know, his ace stuff in the NCAA tournament.
Last time we podcasted, we talked about it coming off the heels of Bama. Like, this is Tennessee's ace, and he had solidified that with that Bama outing. Naturally moves back into the game 1 role. It doesn't go as well in Kentucky, you know, and why that happened. I don't think Teagan was horrible. Yeah, he gave up 6 runs and 6 innings and 10 hits. Like, I used the phrase, he just came back down to earth a little bit. Like, this happens. You know, he's not going to do what he did against Bama and these other teams every single time, you know. So it wasn't a obviously good outing, but it wasn't horrible. I wasn't really surprised to see him bounce back like he did, but obviously 15 strikeouts is kind of a different beast in and of its own. But it just reaffirmed what we were talking about a couple weeks ago. This is Tennessee's ace. This is their guy they're going to ride. And to see him, you know, not have any problems with the series opener stuff, like, I never really bought into that, I guess is what I'm trying to say, Ryan. The fact it happened when he reverted back to the game 1 role was a little weird, but of course, this outing squashes all those, you know, I don't want to say conspiracies. That feels too heavy a word, but just all that talking point of he can't pitch when it's game 1 of a series.
Yeah, no, I agree. And like, I look, he didn't, I think he lost his weekend starting or his Friday night starting spot mostly to send a message and get him to work on being quicker to plate and to control the running game better and to try to kind of send a message, give him a bolt. It wasn't like, oh man, he'd been so bad on Fridays that he's, you know, we can't pitch him there. We had to remove him from the rotation. And yeah, I would just say I'm not a huge believer in general that, you know, what day they're pitching affects how they pitch. You know, some of it is a little bit mental on Friday night. But I never really bought into that being the issue with Teagan. And, you know, to your point, certainly he puts that to bed on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, in April, he gave up, 3 runs in 23 2/3 innings. And if you add this Texas outing to that, that would be 30 2/3 and still only giving up 3 runs. It has been phenomenal. And you can add the Vandy relief outing, that would be 4. But every start, aside from Kentucky, in which, you know, that has followed his move to the bullpen, coming back, 3 runs allowed, and then the Kentucky outing is the one blemish. But this is what Coons is more so than the Kentucky outing. I think we all understand that. And the strikeouts have been just unbelievable. And by the way, like, he just never walks dudes. Like, there's only been 2 outings all year he's walked more than 1 batter. It's just free passes have been a problem at times for Mac, Blanco early, the relievers, of course.
Yeah.
But for Coons, it's never, ever an issue.
Yeah,
First round
and
pick.
yeah, no, 100% agree. And uh, to the the walk that he did have to open the game was kind of a longer at bat, and I mean Aiden Robbins was just seeing the ball really well in that game. It was very good at bat. He had, I believe, a double off Coons later, and then he hit the home run off of Brandon Arvidsson. So that dude was just on a tear on Friday night.
Yeah. All right, let's move forward and talk about Evan Blanco. Like Coons, Blanco changed the days in which he pitched, or really the game in which he pitched for the Kentucky series. Pitched game 2, was not his best at all. I'd venture to say it was his worst outing of SEC play, just because that Vandy one was so marred by defensive mistakes and just backbreaking errors. He just was not Evan Blanco that we've come to see this year against Kentucky. But really gritty outing against Texas. Does not get started off on the right foot. He has kind of a pun if you want to look at it that way, because of the balk, trips over himself a little bit on the mound to score a run. And then next pitch is a 2-run homer to left center. It was mashed, and from Timo Becerra, who had an excellent weekend for Texas and specifically a great Saturday. And it was like, oh man, this is not looking good. After he struggled last week, he's already walked a dude, had the balk, 2-run homer. But really, after that, Evan Blanco was the Evan Blanco we've come to expect. Multiple 1, 2, 3 innings, went deep into the game when it was so necessary for him to, given the fact that Landon Mack was going to miss Sunday. Tennessee needed Blanco to eat quite a bit of innings, and he did so, pitching 7 innings, striking out 8. Only gave up 2 runs after the first. It doesn't look just super flashy on the final line, but I was really impressed by what Blanco was able to do after such a rocky start and gut through that. And 111 pitches, 7 innings, man. Like, this was big time stuff.
Yeah, well, 100%. And the 5th inning, it felt like things could have easily gotten away from him there. I was kind of wondering why there were some people moving around in the Tennessee bullpen, but no one was starting to toss or anything like that. And, it was 2 walks and then back-to-back singles. And it's like, man, this thing could get away from him in a hurry. And he gets out of it, and, he gets the final 2, retires the final 2 batters he faces that inning. And then 2, 1, 2, 3 innings right after that in the 6th and the 7th. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think I tweeted it, or maybe I just said it to somebody in the press box. It was like every inning Evan Blanco had was, all right, he retired the side in 4 minutes, or he could give up 9 runs here. It looked like it was a very strange outing where each inning was either pretty, not really dominant, because it wasn't like it was just a crazy amount of strikeouts, but just quick, getting through the order, or flirting with a lot of disaster. But he never let things get too bad in the innings that he did flirt with disaster. And certainly, a huge credit to Tennessee's offense, which immediately picked him up. And I think Blanco, his maturity showed in a lot of ways, but I think in the sense that, all right, you get up 3 runs in the 1st inning, your offense immediately scores 2 runs in the bottom of the 1st, ties the game in the 2nd. It's like he's the type of guy that I think can very much not be mentally rattled and be like, all right, this isn't going to look like just what you said. It was not, if you look at the stat sheet, it was not a good looking start. But he was like, I'm in a position where I can throw well enough now that we can very, very much still win this game. And that's what he did.
Yeah. That 5th inning is what I was talking about a little bit earlier, where Blanco has done a good job of facing mid-outing adversity and overcoming it. I think that was a fear some of us kind of had, and this seed was planted by a friend of the pod, really good friend of ours, Caleb Giroux, who was pessimistic Blanco would be able to get through the lineup really effectively 2 times, God forbid a 3rd time, given his lack of velocity and just inexperience pitching against SEC hitters. But he has been able to do that, and he's faced adversity in the middle of games multiple times. I'm going to end up looking up and finding a stat or putting together some stats to prove this. But if you've watched Tennessee baseball a year, you know what I'm talking about. This happens from time to time, and it feels like it could end, but Blanco is able to get some big outs to get out of a jam, and then potentially add a little frosting on top and pitch a couple more innings, which is what he did Sunday. And it's been so key in past outings because Tennessee's bullpen is probably weak on series finales, and it was even more key this time around. given what we knew the situation was with Tennessee's pitching depth, Mac's absence, all of that. So yeah, the presence he has on the mound, it just screams this veteran energy from him, and his never going to lack composure up there. So a very, very important player for Tennessee going into the postseason, and what a player he's been for the Vols this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was as high on him as anybody entering the season, and he's gone 6+, far more than I expected. I was expecting a lot of 5 to right at 6, but he's pitched into the 7th inning, way, way more than I would have expected, and certainly Tennessee's bullpen has been much, much, much worse than I expected. So that's been all the more important.
Well, usually we'd have a third starting pitcher to talk about and break down an outing. Not the case this time around. Landon Mack missed the series finale with some right arm soreness. We'll see what ends up happening there. Don't have much more information outside of that. Obviously not great to have soreness this time of year, but hey, if Tennessee can, they feel like they're going to make the tournament regardless at this point. This Texas win goes such a long way with RPI. Even if they get swept in Oklahoma and bow out early in Hoover, I think they probably make it as a 3. Really in good position to get a 2 seed at this point. So I'm not going to say they don't need, having Landon Mack would be awesome in Oklahoma City, awesome in Hoover. But if Tennessee exercises caution, we don't see Landon Mack till the regional tournament, and that means he is 100% ready to go. It could end up being a positive for Tennessee that Landon Mack is able to rest here and look better. I will say, the AJ Russell thing has scarred Tennessee fans for life with the soreness stuff, and it's like, oh, the uncertainty of health for a pitcher because of the whirlwind that was Russell's situation. We saw it happen to Russell. We saw him get injured mid-games. We saw the discomfort. For Mac, his Kentucky outing was awesome, and it was such a great bounce back for him. He didn't look banged up at all. Pitching, it looked all good. So, the severity TBD, but Tennessee had to pivot, of course. Ryan, I didn't know if you had anything to add regarding Mac here.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've been told, I don't think it's super serious. But anytime arm soreness with a pitcher, it's just worrisome. Yeah. So, from what I've been told, not super serious, but anytime you hear that, you're just going to be on edge with a guy, especially when it's there's not time. I need 2 weeks, maybe more, that he can figure this out. But it's not like you have a month or 6 weeks to get him right for the postseason. Definitely something that you just got to monitor, and if you're Tennessee, hope that it starts to feel better.
Well, with Brandon Arvidsson and Cam Appenzeller each throwing 40+ pitches in games 1 and 2 to help seal those victories, Tennessee had to use a bullpen game on Sunday, and it wasn't pretty. I mean, there's just no getting around it. Texas scored 13 runs. Tennessee starts Taylor Tracy, who we've seen start some midweek games. Get some outs in SEC play, has looked good at times, but the command has just really been an issue for him, especially after the first handful of batters of a game. This time, he only was able to get through 2, albeit efficiently, until the wheels fell off, and he couldn't get out of the first inning. 3 walks, couple of hits later, including 2 home runs. It was a 4 spot he gives up in the opening inning to Texas. So 6 pitchers pitched after Tracy. Guys we see on midweeks a lot with Hindi and Bayoto to end the game. But I think, Chandler Day, I always say Charlie Day, who's, of course, the Always Sunny actor. But Chandler Day is the highlight here, pitching 3 innings, gives up a couple of runs, but I thought looked really good. Of course, a career high inning count for him in 3, pitch count for him in 42. Had gotten, I want to say, 8. No, it was maybe 5 SEC outs, somewhere around there before this game. So to come in and get 9 outs, I'm not going to say it was huge for it was big at the time because Tennessee's kind of still in it early. But, I think just huge for Chandler Day more than anything that he was able to get this experience and look pretty solid.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think him and Will Haas have been the most encouraging of the non-Cam Appenzeller freshman pitchers. Ironic that all of them are left-handed. And Nylander said with some of the, Haas is still had been injured. I would not necessarily sure I'd say he's working back, but he's not built up to throw much more than that. But he looked pretty good in getting 4 out. So those two guys were kind of the two that I think you would say, yeah, they threw the ball pretty well in this game. And guys that have been, about the most promising of the freshmen probably throw Baeto, the midweek freshman probably throw Baeto in there too. So some things to like, but more looking down the road as to what those guys can be moving forward than really feeling like either wanted to improve to me or really made me think like, yeah, they could emerge as a really key arm for this team in the postseason. They might need to. They might be thrown into some of those innings, but I didn't see enough from either to feel, or anyone, I should say, that threw on Sunday to feel like, yeah, this they might have something here. This could change the dynamic of the bullpen a bit.
Yeah, if the closest one would be Day, it's
yes.
And I would say after Arvidsson, still going to throw Cam Appenzeller in there, and Bo Rudy, who gave up a nuke against his first batter. 3 of those runs of the grand slam go against Krenzel, but Rudy is still a solid pitcher in my eyes. Like, he gets a 1-2-3 inning the following inning, gets 2 outs, kind of around a double before walking a dude long AB to Becerra. Hindi relieves him in the 8th, but like, I'm still putting Rudy top 3 of Tennessee's bullpen. After those 3, Ryan, I mean, like, I think it's Chandler Day 4th. Like, is he the guy you would have the most confidence in after App, Arvidsson, and Rudy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean,
which is the biggest downfall of this Tennessee team and the biggest, problem for it. It's the fact that you cannot throw Mark Hindi or Brady Frederick in any sort of situational time where you need a big out, which they were supposed to be, and it's Braden Krenzel giving you nothing. Like, he had stacked a couple of good outings there, but Tennessee going to him in a high-pressure spot, Kentucky, completely falls apart. And then here, the command is just not there. 3 walks and a wild pitch, ends up giving up 4 runs and only gets 2 outs. It's just it's not working for him this year.
It's not.
And
this is not going to happen this year.
Yeah, it's just
could happen next year.
In the postseason, I don't think you can possibly throw Krenzel, Hindi, or Frederick unless you are absolutely desperate.
Yeah. The problem is the way you just lay out that picture, they're probably going to be desperate in some spots. Yeah. Unless things go real well, 1 through 6, they're going to be desperate.
But that's the shame. Like, how did it happen? Krenzel, I can maybe understand because with the way last year kind of ended on the sickness and he was never quite the same. He started the year well, so it's still confusing, but maybe I can wrap my head around that. Hindi is a vet from Duke who pitched big innings in the NCAA tournament last year. Him being a nothing is so confusing. And then Brady Frederick, SoCon pitcher of the year last year, right? Like, this guy was supposed to be something. And he just gives up so many homers. You can't throw him. Like,
Hindi to me is the one that's been the most surprising just because of what you said. I mean, he threw 30, it's in the 30s, maybe in the 40s worth of innings last year at Duke on a team that was good and made a super regional. And, he wasn't like he was just shut down. It wasn't like he wasn't
a starter. Yeah.
But yeah, he was good. And for him to not even be able to be a situational pitcher on this team is really surprising to me. I mean, Frederick, it doesn't shock me just because the velo is so low, and I did see him get hit around hard in the fall. But you've hoped or thought, okay, maybe those guys see him a lot. Maybe he sees pitches against some guys he doesn't see as much. He'll be effective, but it just hasn't been the case. And yeah, it almost goes. You almost flip it where the offense is just slowly, to me, gotten better and better over the course of SEC play. I kind of feel the opposite way with the pitching staff, where I feel like it's just slowly gotten a little bit worse. It's not, obviously not across the board. Some guys have been better as the year's gone on, Teagan being, chief amongst them, but it just feels like it's gotten a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And you're sitting here in, May, and it's just like, I don't know who there is that they can count on out of this bullpen. I mean, even Appenzeller, like you're going to have to throw him, but
yeah, that's where I was going. The reason you feel that way is because Cam Appenzeller is not the same. Like and not the same is maybe not even strong enough language here. He is drastically different. And it's more of a testament to how dang good he was early. Like this dude went 20 plus innings, not giving up a run against SEC hitters. It was unreal the stretch he was on. And it has come crashing down. A little bit better, I guess, this time around than the past few outings, but still they're in the ninth, things spiral for him, so it didn't last long. He did retire the side around a homer in the eighth, the first inning he pitched, right? Got a nice strikeout against Rodriguez, got Becerra to fly out, some good outs. Then in the ninth, leadoff walk, does get a 3-pitch K, but then it's single, walk, wild pitch that ends up scoring a run. Gets a big strikeout to Pack, who was mashing balls. Give him that. It was kind of a long AB, won the battle. But then another wild pitch and then a double. Like Tennessee had such a big lead that, maybe there were some fans out there that started getting a little worried, but Tennessee won by 5 and they were up 8 going into the ninth. So the lead was so comfortable, but it's like, dang, is this game ever going to end? Because Appenzeller just can't do it right now. And it clearly, if this had been a normal game, Tennessee would have pulled Appenzeller in the middle of this inning, and it would have been a 5-out outing for him or 4-out outing. And it would have been another just bad taste in your mouth kind of deal. At least he was able to finish the game, Ryan, but it's just, it's not the same for him. I guess a small silver lining is that this one felt a little bit better, or at least less worse, maybe is the way to put it.
Yeah, and I think some of that, he did get squeezed on some calls in the ninth inning, and some of those walks, like some, I don't know if they were necessarily egregious, but pitches were not even pitches that were like borderline, pitches that were definitely strikes that were called balls. But at the same time, it's harder to listen to that argument. One, when you struggled, I think. Two, when you're up however many runs Tennessee was up going into the ninth inning. Like, dude, just throw it over the plate.
Yeah.
But yeah, just from a number standpoint, his first 5 SEC appearances, which ran through the Mississippi State series, 2 earned runs in 23 and the third innings pitched, and now 4 appearances since he's given up 18 earned runs in 8 in a third innings pitched. So it's just gone from ERA below 1 into ERA in the 20s in the first and second half SEC play. So it's a guy Tennessee needs to get right, but it just doesn't feel encouraging at this point.
Yeah, I was about to say like the freshman wall is real. We're not in Appenzeller's mind or around him every day. We can't confidently say it's going to improve, but I have a hard time thinking it's going to. Like, I hope it does. He's a hell of a pitcher, and when he's on, Tennessee's very dangerous, but I don't know. It just doesn't feel good at all.
No, it doesn't. And, I asked Josh Elander.
Big problem.
What's that?
And that's a big problem for this team. Yes.
Huge problem. Two-parter there to that. One, I asked Josh Elander about it on Tuesday night, I guess is when it would have been last week. Like, kind of, does he feel like he's physically breaking down? Is it this increase in workload? And he kind of downplayed that a little bit. He said, look, his velo numbers are still pretty similar, are still similar. It's not like the stuff's a lot worse. So he didn't think he was physically breaking down. He just kind of said, SEC's hard, freshman wall, that type of thing. So I don't know exactly. The fact that the velo's not down probably gives some encouragement that it could potentially, he could potentially right the ship. And I'll have to do this again this year. I did it last year, I think, going into the NCAA tournament, where it was like the bullpen trust power rankings for Tennessee. And Tennessee had such like a tantalizing bullpen last year because you had someone like Nate Snead who had all the pedigree, but did not have a very good year. He'd shown it to you in postseason. And then you had A.J. Russell, who all-world talent and was kind of up and down with the injuries, and Arv, who came on late. I'll probably do that again this year, but it's like,
good.
Hey, finding how do you even find 5 people to possibly list? I don't, after those top 3, you said Chandler Day 4. I would agree with that. So under the top 4, I don't even know who you would list as the 5th person.
Will Haas. Because I'm not touching Krenzel, Hindi, or Frederick with what's the Grinch line, 39.5-foot pole. Like, no, they can't even enter the equation anymore. So I go to the freshman.
And here's the thing.
Nick Abraham, where was he this weekend?
Which I will. Let's get to that in a second. But let me first say this, because I don't disagree with the Chandler Day Will Haas take at all. Chandler Day's thrown 5 2/3 innings, and Will Haas thrown 3 innings in SEC play. These guys don't even throw for him. And
I know.
Half of those for both of those guys was on Sunday. So you talk about searching for answers. Yes, Nick Abraham not throwing to me was the most surprising part of the weekend or of Sunday.
I thought he'd start.
To me, he felt like the guy who had the best chance to go out there and throw 3 innings for him. So I was surprised by that.
All right, that kind of brings us to our next thing to talk about here. Looping in Arvidsson a little bit, who was solid, gave up a solo homer, but very solid game one. He's the top bullpen arm right now for this team. Landon Mack, say he doesn't play against Oklahoma. What would be your plan? I think if I had to project it, Tennessee is going to go TBD for a Sunday guy, and then if they don't need to use Arvidsson, if say they just pummel Oklahoma games 1 and 2, they can start him and not use him. But assuming Tennessee is going to want to win early in the series and use Arvidsson, let's put him off the table for a second. Who do you think Tennessee should start in a game 3 if Mack's sideline?
Abraham, Baeto. The thing is, the thing why I wouldn't say Haas or Day is because they haven't started even a midweek. I don't think they have any experience doing that, and that's where this gaming on Saturday. I'm not. I guess you could still. You could still start one of those guys on Tuesday to get them that experience for Saturday. But even then, you're going to throw 10 pitches. They just threw a lot of pitches on Sunday, and they're going to have to throw again on Saturday. So, yes. I don't know. And look, I don't really think it matters a whole lot. They're going to have to find something with this collection of pitchers to piece it together, to mix and match, as Josh Elander said on Saturday in game 3, no matter what it is. And I guess that's something, I saw a lot of people just ripping. Not a lot of people. I saw some people ripping Josh Elander for keeping Taylor Tracy in as long as he did. In the first inning, it's like some people are going to have to get through the outing. And sorry, this may be a little bit of a crass analogy. Someone's got to drop their nuts and get out of an inning. That's the case. That's the deal here. Someone's got to have to do that. So I had no issue with that. I didn't like how they handled Bo Rudy. They kind of talked about wanting to bridge and get to him late in the game. I didn't think you had the luxury to do that. I would have been trying to keep the game in striking distance for as long as possible. So I would have gone to Bo Rudy in the 6th inning when they went to Krenzel, and that was the ending that the game got away from them. But again, I don't think Tennessee was going to win the game either way.
You're down 3. The game's still in balance.
The game's still in balance.
Playing. Yeah.
So I don't. I would be of the opinion of just try to keep it as in striking distance for as long as possible, and then if you give up 8 runs in the 9th inning, give up 8 runs in the 9th inning. But for the most part, I just don't. Josh Elander's options are so bad on Sunday that I'm not. Don't have a bunch of reason to be critical of how he handled the bullpen.
Well, what if he just flips Rudy and Appenzeller in terms of what he expects their role to be for this series? Because it feels like Arvidsson and Appenzeller are the natural piggybacks to starters. Don't even go with that mindset. Be like, okay, we got Coons, Arvidsson in game 1, try to win. Game 2, Blanco should give us 6 to 7 innings. Rudy after that. Rudy's our game 2 reliever guy. And then if you only have to use 4 pitchers, start Appenzeller. And maybe it helps. That's what I almost think that maybe is the best idea, to forget about Appenzeller being one of your top bullpen arms to finish a game. Just don't even have that thought. Lump him in with the rest and think of Rudy as that way, which, yes, I know he's given up homers. He's not perfect, but he's better than Appenzeller right now. I like that. To think of Arvidsson and Rudy as your top 2 reliever guys, and then game 3, maybe Cam hasn't thrown.
And if you give yourself, this is the positive and negative with that. If you give yourself a better chance to win on game 3 because Appenzeller is capable of, getting more innings under his belt, or getting through 3 or 4 innings than Rudy would be. I almost, and look, especially going this weekend, Tennessee. You said it, 13 wins. Tennessee should be in a good spot. You get to 14, you're a lock. So that's the goal 1 this weekend: is don't get swept. Make yourself a lock, and there's no pressure on you and Hoover. So that fact's going to be counterintuitive to this. But if you're trying to maximize how many games you could win this weekend, I would almost say go Rudy behind Teagan, because Teagan can theoretically get you deeper into the game.
Yeah,
now,
either or.
You're not going to go to him in a 2. If you're up by 2 and you're just looking for 1 win, you're not going to go to him in the 8th inning up 2. You're going to go to the guy you trust more in Arv. But I almost think if you're just like from the standpoint, if you're talking about of like pairing guys and what's the best fit, I almost think it's that, because that, look, that's been one of the knocks on Rudy, is that he can't pitch as long in the games. Well, or he can't have as long of outings. Well, Teagan's pretty consistently getting you very long outings, so you're going to ask less of him. And then that pairs Arv, who can give you, 3 innings, with someone in Blanco who's maybe a little bit less likely to go deeper into games. So, I agree. That is like the theoretically of like what gives Tennessee the best chance to win the series. I think it's almost that. But when you're just going into this weekend really just needing to get 1 win, I get, front loading and being really aggressive with how you use your bullpen arms.
Totally agree. Let us wrap up some Tennessee offense thoughts before we talk about this Oklahoma series and just what's coming up. We hit on most of it. This, they're playing much better. It's a better unit, gives you some optimism going into games, as we discussed. I think just, putting more emphasis on how huge Trent Grinlinger has been, extra base hits, situational stuff, good at bats every time out, and the power, Ryan, has really come around for him. It seemed like it took for him forever to even have a homer on the year. He's hit 4 since April 24th, and it's not surprising. You look at him; he's a big, strong guy. So seeing that come around to become a part of his game is nice. I think Blake Grimmer having this big of a weekend was encouraging. The Grim Reaper nickname, he is coming more and more into that, because he is providing some big moments for this Tennessee team. And I think when you talk about needing it, he's among the top guys. I don't know if he would be number 1, but he's among the top guys I'd trust for this team. We mentioned Clark's consistency. I think Manny having weekend in which he hit over 300 was nice. Chapman with that monstrous senior day. Awesome to see that happen. Ryan, I do want to ask you one big question, and I've just kind of hit on it a little bit. Big spot in the postseason. Let's say a base hit. Who's top of the list for you on this Tennessee offense? Who are you turning to first?
This is a real great minds think alike, because I was about to throw the same question at you, but I was going to do it. Rank your top 3.
Okay, let's do the list.
So I'm going to go 1 Blake Grimmer, 2 Trent Grinlinger, and 3 Reese Chapman.
That's a good call. I'm still going to put Ford in the top 3.
That's the thing with Ford, is it's like he's just been so streaky that it's kind of hard to say. It's kind of like, well, let's how's Ford hitting that week on any given weekend? He has a little bit of 2023 Christian Moore to him, I feel like, where some weekends it's like, oh gosh, this guy's unbelievable, and then other weekends just very meh or below average.
Man, the Kentucky weekend was so brutal for Grimmer. He needed this Texas series. He just has some bad strikeouts. I have a hard time putting him. Is it crazy to put Grinlinger first?
It's not. It's not.
There was one series he went like 0 for 11 or 1 for 11. Was it Ole Miss?
It was Ole Miss. Yeah.
Yeah. Outside of that, dude, he's hit 500. He's been unreal. So I really think it might be him. But I'll go Grinlinger, Ford, and Grimmer, I guess. I still have a little bit of doubt with Chapman's clutch gene. I think he's very solid.
Now we're getting into it.
But his ability to like really come through, I don't know how many times he's stranded the bases loaded this year and really in his career. I'm not trying to dunk on him or anything, but he's not the type of guy I think of when I'm like, oh, he comes through most of the time. I'll go Grinlinger, Ford. Grinlinger, Ford.
Okay, a couple things to hit on. Let's start with Grinlinger. The only reason you would say not him in that, is it crazy? The only reason you would say it is because he's a freshman, but he genuinely might have the most mature approach to plate of anyone on the team as a true freshman. So it's like, does that really matter that much? And the thing I was going to say with Chapman, and I don't disagree with any of that, because it does feel that way to me. just anecdotally, but also he's got 4 Grand Slams in his career, which is
Yeah.
like, how many people have more than that? The comp I made, and I don't know any Chicago Cubs fans. Jack, I know you're a Reds guy, so I don't know how much this will hit home, but I feel like Cubs fans would be able to tell me if I'm crazy or if y'all like this. He's very Ian Happ-esque to me. Ian Happ is very divisive as a Cubs player, in that you just look at his stats. He's a good defensive outfielder. He plays left field, so less premium position, but he's got 3 or 4 Gold Gloves in his career. His overall hitting numbers are very solid. He's going to hit 25, 20 home runs and 30 doubles in a season and have a good OBP. But it's just like, you just don't feel like he comes up in those clutch moments with big hits, and you just don't feel like he's like a great hitter. So he gets a lot of hate, and that's kind of how Reese Chapman feels to me. Very solid defensively in a premium position in right field. You look at his numbers, like last year, he hit close to 15 homers, I think, and a lot of doubles, and a solid batting average. He's going to do the same thing this year. I think he's at 10 homers now, a bunch of doubles, good on base percentage. But there's just something. There's something when you don't look at the numbers and you're just vibes in it, that it just doesn't. You just don't have you don't have as much confidence in him as you would think, given his pedigree, I guess. And we're probably just thinking about how bad he ended last year as much as anything. And this, probably infects our brain on that, which maybe isn't completely fair to him. But that's the comp. I'll be curious to any Cubs fans to listen what they think of that take.
Yeah, that's a good comp, and I'm sure many people related to that. While you were talking about that, I did the old word search into the Rocky Top Insider Twitter account, Chapman Grand Slam, because I wanted to easily look up what his Grand Slams were. And this really fits my agenda. Okay, so one Grand Slam happened on February 16th, 2025 against Hofstra, and Tennessee was, let's say, winning comfortably. Okay, yeah. Another one came on March 4th, 2025 against Radford to put Tennessee up 6-4. So, hey, midweeker, but they were trailing. I'll give them that one.
What inning? Did it say what inning it was?
Bottom of the third.
Okay.
The Hofstra one happened in the second inning to put them up 11-1. So, yeah.
We get a 10 after 2 rolling that day?
Do what?
Can we get a 10 after 2 run roll?
Yeah, exactly, right? I'm sure that day would have gone much better if we had that. Bottom of the 6th, March 9th, 2024. I take it this is the first of his career. He hit one against Illinois in the bottom of the 6th to put Tennessee up 18-1. Not a competitive game. And you said 4, and that was what was said on the broadcast. But if our Twitter search history is correct, he should have 5, because he also hit one earlier this year against Tennessee Tech, and Tennessee went up 5-0 in the first inning. Yeah. So again, midweek, stakes not high. This one tied the game in the first inning, right? So this is definitely the most impressive one given the type of game. But yeah, his other Grand Slams, if he has 5, which is what seems to be the case for our Twitter history, not quite in big moments. But I give it to you. He's had some moments where guys are on and he hits long balls.
And I mean, that's just right into the Ian Happ thing too. Like, that's a running joke on Cubs Twitter. If the Cubs are up 8 runs in the 8th inning, Ian Happ's going to hit a home run.
There you go. But look, Reese is a hell of a player. He's had a really good season.
Great year.
Yeah. Great decision to come back. Tennessee needed him. And so props to Reese going out like that on senior day. Has one more home game, but to do that was pretty cool. Okay, so Tennessee has its 9-2, by the way. They used the same 9 every single game. Jay Abernathy's that 10th player for Tennessee, but as long as Stone's catching, he's not going to play. I think Stone caught all 3 because it kind of worked for Tennessee early in the series, and they certainly weren't going to, bench Stone after his homer on Saturday, I don't think. So it just kind of worked out this way where Stone caught all 3 games. I mean, look, we're running out of traditional 3-game series anyway, so we'll see what happens. But, I still think Jay Abernathy's somewhat in the fold. He's kind of the 10th guy. If Stone's not catching, Wright probably is. Jay's in center. I don't think we'll see Levi catch anymore. It kind of seems to be phased out right now. Wright is the number 2 catcher. Tennessee is hitting the road to play Oklahoma this weekend. The game will actually be in Oklahoma City, not Norman, as Oklahoma is just wanting to play in Oklahoma City. It's just a cool thing they're wanting to do to close the season. Not really any rhyme or reason to it. They just want to play in that ballpark. Big series as Tennessee and Oklahoma are both 13 and 14 in SEC play. Look, this SEC standings after Auburn, who is fifth in the league at 16 and 11, Tennessee is only 2 games behind Florida, who's the 6th seed in the league. There's some challenging series for a couple of these teams this weekend. Of course, we know anything can happen, but if Tennessee can get to 15 wins, maybe even 16, I think they can potentially not have to play Tuesday in Hoover. And Ryan, the big question I want to pose here is, do you think if they sweep Oklahoma, hosting is potentially entering the equation here, or would they need a strong run in Hoover? Do you think it could put them on the bubble?
I think it could put them on the bubble. They would probably need a solid showing in Hoover. I mean, each year is different. I feel, again, anecdotally, like the hosting bubble is probably a little bit weaker this year than it was last year. But, I mean, that was the big thing last year going into Hoover was Tennessee going to be able to host. And it felt like getting those 2 wins, one being over a really good Texas team, is kind of what did it for Tennessee last year. So I think it gets into the equation. It becomes a possibility if you sweep next weekend, but still not a guarantee by any means.
Gotcha. All right, makes sense. Yeah, I think getting a, first round bye in Hoover would be huge for Tennessee, and in terms of that too. It's we'll see what happens. But if they vault up to the 9, they'll be game 1 in Hoover. As they sit right now, they are game 3, that 5:30 p.m. Eastern slot, which will be against the 15 seed, which will probably be South Carolina. So yeah, look, Oklahoma on the heels of a series loss to Arkansas. They won the finale, high-scoring game, but Oklahoma's really been struggling as of late. They've dropped 3 straight series after sweeping Missouri and have 3 wins in that span. So they haven't gotten swept, but 3 and, what was that, 6 in their last 3 weekends. I think Tennessee's a better team, but of course it's a long road trip. We've seen Tennessee disappear at times. Anything can really happen, but I'd say people should feel optimistic about Tennessee's chances of winning this series.
Yeah, I agree. And, before the Kentucky series, I would have said Tennessee's played pretty well on the road for the most part this year. I mean, not, obviously they're just 1-3 in road series, but they swept Mississippi State. They played really well in that Georgia series. So, I don't feel like this team struggled a ton on the road. Root for the Lakers to win the next couple games. I think, keep that series going longer and keeping all those Oklahoma City people focused on the NBA playoffs and not caring about watching a little Sooners baseball. Now, I'm not sure they would care about Sooners baseball anyway. They'd probably be a little more locked in on Sooners softball as the postseason gets started. But a funny thing to think about. And I don't even know what that schedule is for that series if they would be in Oklahoma City on any over the weekend.
Let's just say the series ends tonight. All right.
Okay.
I don't think the Lakers are winning a game, and Game 4 is tonight.
So
this is the last. This is the last game of the LeBron Laker era. So enjoy it.
Lock in.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be curious to see what those crowds look like in Oklahoma City because I'm a bit skeptical of how much people are going to want to come out and watch.
It's weird, man. It's the only one they're doing there this whole year. They just decided to do the last one.
Which I do wonder if that's because of the softball deal. With the regional being this weekend, that would make sense to me.
Yeah. By the way, I said Tennessee's the 10 seed right now. They are not. They are the 11. Oklahoma holds the tiebreaker. But look, if Tennessee wins the series and teams 9, 8, 7 in the standings kind of all do well, they'll end up being the 10 because they'll, of course, vault Oklahoma. It's tricky, though, because right behind them is Kentucky. So say Tennessee loses the series and Kentucky's able to win 2, then Tennessee will get jumped by Kentucky because Cats will have the tiebreaker. They'd fall back to the 12. So wide range of outcomes here. Hell, they could not play on next Tuesday. They could be the 12. So lots of moving parts to happen this weekend. So keep an eye on all the scores around the league. And, of course, we'll have you guys staying up to date on RockyTopInsider.com with all things Tennessee baseball coverage, live at-bat by at-bat update threads for every single game. Home regular season finale is Tuesday against Belmont. assuming that will be the last game in Lindsey Nelson this year. Senior Day, though, took place on Sunday. If you want to follow Ryan Shumpert, you can do so at Ryan Shumpert00. I'm at Jack Foster Media. And of course, follow Rocky Top Insider at Rocky Top Insider. Ryan, any final notes before we get out of here?
Nope. Think we hit on everything.
All right. Long one here, but important one, as it has been 2 weeks. So next time we come at you guys, it'll be previewing the SEC tournament. We'll have a bracket to look at for this year's tournament in Hoover. Lots of fun times ahead. But for Ryan, I am Jack. We'll see you next time.